Hello and welcome to today's presentation. So as you can see from the title, today's presentation is all about supplementation and which supplements I might ask you to take, or one of the coaches at Project Sparks might ask you to take to improve your overall health and potentially your performance as a byproduct. This presentation is mainly for kind of general health as opposed to more specific performance-based supplements. However, there isn't that many kind of performance-based supplements we would recommend taking, as you'll see when you watch the other presentation, because there's not actually that much that benefits us. And arguably, this is where we get the most bang for our buck in terms of supplementation, because it's in a lot of supplement companies' interests, and it's a lot of countries' interest to understand supplementation in this area more than performance. So there's a lot of research into heart health, stuff like that, bone health. So we do know a little bit more about that side of supplementation, because obviously it's in the best interests of countries to keep everyone healthy. So let's get straight into it. So what supplements are we thinking about? And I mean, if you're hoping for a massive list here, it's not going to be massive, and the chances are that you probably already, if you're working with us, taking these supplements, because we would have asked you to take them or purchase them within your first few weeks of kind of signing up, if we feel you need to do it. As you'll see as we go through, we will recommend that most people will need to take these supplements at some point, just because of Western life nowadays. And if you're in the UK, I know some of you won't be, the lack of sunlight, for example. So let's get stuck into it. So the first one on our list, and something that you'll probably be aware of, is fish oils. Okay, fish oils are quite well researched, as you will see from the right hand side. I'll talk you through that in a minute, but they are very beneficial in a number of ways. So when we're looking at a fish oil, I wouldn't recommend just going for the cheapest one. Okay, of course, there's like a sliding scale, so there's super expensive and there's like super cheap, like Poundland fish oils. Like, they're not going to have the best micronutrient profile. So you want to be looking on your fish oils and making sure they have this ingredient here, so EPA and DHA. So I'm not going to have a go at pronouncing these, because I was trying before the presentation, but what you need to know is these are very important, and these are fatty acids that we need. And arguably most of us, especially if you're in a diet, you won't be getting enough fish oil, because you won't be eating enough salmon per week, oily fish, mackerel, herring, stuff like that. So this is one way that you could definitely cover your bases in terms of heart health, joint health, and all the other things. So let's have a look at some of the kind of benefits. So we know that fish oils are anti-inflammatory. They can create anabolic resistance in the elderly. They can help facilitate weight loss in some cases. They can help lower blood pressure, lower cholesterol. They can help reduce strokes and similar effects around the heart. And they can help with low mood. So if we look over here, the second one, there's a very high consistency of research results that comes back with a notable effect on depression. And that's very interesting, okay? And that's not necessarily something that is talked about much. And I'm not saying all of you have depression, but we all probably have low moods at some point in our lives. So it might make sense, and it might be something to do with the brain's relationship with these fatty acids, that we take a decent amount of supplementation of them throughout our lifetime, okay? So I would always recommend having a good serving of fish oils with EPA and DHA in your daily routine. So stack that in the morning, and then we can cover our bases. Well, we can somewhat cover our bases in terms of heart health, inflammation, mood, blood glucose, and all the other good stuff. So make sure you've got that in, and I would make that a staple of your day, so that we can make sure that kind of this base is ticked off, especially if you're dieting. The next one is a performance-based supplement, so I'm going to have it in both presentations. It's creatine. It's probably one of the most researched supplements in terms of performance. It obviously has some. It also has some effect on potential memory and brain health, but that's kind of new research. So I'm not going to kind of set that as true as fact right now, but we know that creatine, its main benefit is linked to performance. So it creates improvements in strength, power output, and lean muscle mass as a byproduct. And like I said, more recent research has linked creatine supplementation to improving working memory and reduced mental fatigue. And I mean, who doesn't get mental fatigue across the day? So in terms of how much to take, there is a kind of need to reach saturation. So our body will have a saturation point. Obviously, if you take a lot of creatine at the start of the process, you probably will get to saturation quicker than if you didn't. However, if you kind of took 5 grams per day, you would reach saturation at some point. It just depends whether you feel the need to get to saturation quicker. For example, if you really just want to get the creatine in your system and working, it might be worth having a little bit more at the start of the process and then tapering it down. It would also be recommended that you have that creatine with carbohydrates, just because that might improve the absorption, because obviously creatine will go into muscles alongside the carbohydrates. So creatine, like you said, very high correlation between power output, very high correlation between weight gain, as in muscle gain, and obviously different creatinine processes in the body. So creatine, get it in. It will help you. It will help you in terms of your performance. Next one, vitamin D3. So the sunlight vitamin, you will have heard people talk about this. It's quite a common supplement that people take. The main thing with vitamin D3 is that it is a fat-soluble vitamin. So if you're taking it, when you're taking it, and if you're in the UK, I will have you taking it. We need to be having it with a fat source. Otherwise, we might not be absorbing any of that vitamin D3. And vitamin D3 can be linked to increased cognition, immune health, bone health, and overall well-being, especially in those winter months, especially in the summer months as well. If you're coming off the summer that we've had, it's not great, okay? It can also has been linked to reduce risk of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and multiple sclerosis. And in gentlemen, might be music to your ears, it might improve testosterone production overall. However, that's kind of not necessarily set in stone yet, but arguably, as with any of these things, if you are functioning at a better capacity as a human in terms of your health, all of your natural functions will work better anyway. So for example, it's the same with kind of the fish oils. If your heart's as healthy as it can be and your blood pressure is good, your cholesterol's good, you'll probably have high testosterone. And the same with kind of vitamin D3. If you're getting all of these things and you're covering all these bases, it will snowball into you probably being a fitter, the best version of yourself, which will result in you having higher testosterone. Ladies, that one doesn't apply to you, but nonetheless, get it in your system. In terms of how much to take, again, the research is mixed, okay? It needs to be, it's not something you're just gonna, you're not gonna take it and you're gonna be like, wow, I feel it. I feel that vitamin D3. It's not like you have a caffeine pill and you're like, wow. This is not something that you're like, wow, I feel it. We just need to understand that we can pretty much guarantee, based on the research over here, that something is happening from us taking it, okay? Because we know that our skin creates vitamin D3 when we absorb sunlight. And if we're not absorbing sunlight, we're not getting as much D3 as we need to. So the data is mixed on how much to take. So we recommend somewhere between 2,000 IU and 10,000 IU per day. And I appreciate that's quite a big spectrum of what you can take, and I would just experiment to see what you feel comfortable with, what your budget allows you to take, because I don't think necessarily there is a process of taking too much. I don't know, I'm not a doctor. However, I do think there is definitely a process of having too little, and I think we need a little bit more than we actually let ourselves kind of come to think. So I think err on the kind of higher end. For example, I take around 5,000 to 6,000 per day in the morning with a spoonful of peanut butter that I have in my breakfast. So that's ticking off the fat soluble aspect of things, and it's ticking off the vitamin D3 because I spend most of my time inside coaching people. So I don't have the luxury of, one, being in a hot country, or two, being outside. So yeah, vitamin D3 should be in your kind of supplement regime. Zinc. So zinc's kind of one that's potentially on the kind of cusp of whether I deem it as essential. Low levels of zinc within the body can be linked to issues with insulin sensitivity and lower testosterone. So again, this could be more aimed towards my male clients. And likewise for both male and female, zinc may help with immunity. You might have heard of it during the kind of COVID crisis. They talked about zinc supplementation, and I think a few people were taking zinc supplementation and talking about it as if it was the cure. No, it's not going to cure all these diseases, but it might help with immunity. So likewise, again, the same with kind of fish oils. There was a few bits of research that linked it to depression. And like we said, improving depression and length of sickness. Again, I think it's something that we potentially won't be able to get from our diet very easily, so it might be worth supplementing with. So in terms of serving size, we'd be aiming for around 50 grams of elemental zinc per day. Okay. So in terms of serving size, we'll be aiming for around 50 milligrams of elemental zinc per day. So what you'll need to do is when you buy your zinc supplement is see how much actual zinc is in each tablet or in each serving, because lots of the times there's a lot of caking agents in there, a lot of kind of bulking the pill into an actual pill. And there'll be differing amounts of zinc in that tablet. So just check kind of what is in your tablet, and make sure you're getting around 50 milligrams per day. Like I said, that will vary per supplement brand that you use. There might be some merit in adding it in before bed. I know that is a very kind of well accepted approach in the bodybuilding world, despite there not necessarily being that much evidence to support it. However, if it gives you some benefit, it might be better than no benefit in that sense. The next one is potentially something that you might not have heard of. You will if you've been with me for a while. However, it's something called ashwagandha. So again, it's a herbal supplement. So don't switch off and think I'm a hippie. If we look at the kind of evidence on it, it's building. Okay, the evidence is building. It's a relatively cheap supplement. However, it has really good links to anxiety, testosterone production, cortisol reduction, stress management, total cortisol, things like that. So all things that, as people who are trying to grow muscle, we're trying to lose fat, we need to be keeping our cortisol and our stress down. We need to be in a nice relaxed state to be recovering from training, and making the most of the time that we have outside of the gym, where arguably we should be recovering from the stimulus that we've created in the gym. So ashwagandha is something that I would use. I use it personally. I'm not going to say it's going to cure all of your anxieties. However, it is linked to improving it. So if it helps reduce your stress, I think it is a worthwhile supplement. I also use it with my clients to good success in terms of hacking their sleep a little bit. As we know, sleep's our biggest kind of recovery mechanism. And if taking a serving of ashwagandha pre-bed allows you to sleep better or reduce stress before bed so you can sleep, I think it is a win-win supplement, because like I said, it's not actually that expensive in the scheme of things. Okay, I think it's around £13-15 per tub that would last you maybe 2 months. So like I said, it has strong links to anxiety, reduces cortisol. It potentially has been linked to reducing insomnia, fatigue and depression. And of course, as with anything that's quite new, we need longer term trials, we need longitudinal trials, we need meta-analysis, we need systematic reviews on these to actually say set in stone, like we can with kind of cod liver oils and vitamin D3. However, I think it's worth a try. If it works for you, it works for you. If you feel no benefit at all, don't worry about it. In terms of kind of recommended supplementation, I would be aiming for, from the research that I looked at, 300 to 500 milligrams during times of high stress. Okay. If you perceive that you're a high stress individual all the time, I'd have it in as a part of your kind of daily routine. So I wouldn't necessarily have it around training, just because obviously in the training window, we potentially want our ability to generate stress and generate kind of urgency high. We don't want to be in a really relaxed state. So I'd keep it away from the workout window, so potentially on rest days. And that's why I kind of recommended putting it before bed, because arguably you're not going to be training 20 minutes before bed. So if we can have it, a serving of it then, it will stand us in good stead for a good night's sleep. And help improve our sleep, obviously. So 300 to 500 milligrams, I think that will really benefit lots of you, especially if you're training really hard, training to failure. We need to be able to flip that switch and get into recovery mode pretty quick. And last one, because I'm potentially going to split this into two presentations, because I appreciate lots of you won't have kind of 20, 25, 30 minutes to sit down and listen to this, is vitamin C. And vitamin C, obviously you will have heard of it. It's all to do with our immune system. It's all good. It's only good things. However, it is taking vitamin C all the time is not necessarily going to reduce the frequency of colds that we get. However, it can reduce the duration of a cold by 8 to 14%. So that seems like a win-win for me. So how I'd recommend this for our clients, and what I do recommend for our clients is, if you feel like you're on the brink of a cold, when you wake up and you've got a bit of brain fog, you feel like your nose is a bit runny, you feel a little bit tickle in the back of your throat, look at getting some vitamin C. It could be as cheap as anything. I'd always recommend having some in the house. And you want to be getting 5 to 10 grams across the day, spread across the day. Of course, it can be potentially upsetting on your stomach, so don't take it all at once. That's why I spread it out across the day, and then it could potentially reduce the illness duration. Of course, that's not set in stone, and that's on the premise that everything else in your body is working perfectly. And of course, again, like with everything, we want to be getting a good nutritious diet. So don't just eat no vegetables and have a vitamin C tablet thinking you're getting all your vitamins or you're getting all your vitamin C. Have a good balanced diet, and if you feel like you're getting ill, get that vitamin C and have it at hand so you can kind of potentially reduce the long-lasting effect of that. So those are a few that I'd recommend for health, okay? There's going to be some more. I'm going to put them in another presentation. But if you have any questions, just send me or your coach a message, and we will get back to you as best we can. Thanks for watching, and we'll speak to you soon.